Hello, I'm Vaughn Albury. Welcome to Table Talk Unplugged. It's a show produced by the communications section of the Ministry of Education and the Technical and Vocational Training. It's here where we delve into issues of education, featuring key persons and stakeholders. With me is my co-host, Adama Williams.
Thank you, Vaughn. Before we get into our discussion for today, our Lisa Bullard is here with factoids to get our discussion engine started.
The 2020 school year in the Bahamas was met with the challenge of keeping students safe amidst the ongoing threat of the COVID-19 global pandemic. The Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training's response to this threat was to launch a nationwide virtual learning platform. Curriculum officers established teams of teachers to develop content for the placement on the virtual learning platform, and an online student registration process was created. From August 30th to October 13th, 2021, 42,085 students have been enrolled in the Learning Management Information System, and 31,158 students have logged in at least once. For Ed Factoids, I'm Lisa Bullard.
Thanks, Lisa. We're here talking with the Minister of Education and Technical and Vocational Training, the Honorable Glenys Hanna-Martin. Welcome, Minister.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's so good to have you.
Thank you.
I'm first going to ask you, what is your view of the state of education in the Bahamas?
Well, I think, Vaughn, we should start out by understanding what education is. And on a conceptual basis, it's sort of two-pronged. Primarily, it's about individual development of one's potential, realization of their passions, coming of their own on that individual level, but also on a national level. It is directly related to how a nation succeeds, proceeds, how it attains excellence, the manner in which the economy unfolds. You know, those who came before us in the early days, they said that education is the key to national development. And it is that two-pronged reality of education that I think about. And when you put that on the table and you look at how we are performing, then it raises itself for really critical scrutiny. While we must give credit to and thank all the stakeholders that have participated in this enterprise of education, of the individual and preparation for our national economy and our national development, we must at the same time, I've come to a realization and a moment of truth that what we are doing, in my view, it does not fully serve the interests of the Bahamian people. That is not to say that the stakeholders are not doing their utmost in attaining it, but there's some subtleties, some nuances that I think we need to look at in the educational process to determine how is it that we can tap into the potentiality of our children and cause for them individually to flourish and to proceed in such a way that they inure to the national development of the Bahamian people.
Yes, and Minister, I know you've been Minister of Education, Technical and Vocational Training now for just about a few weeks now.
Yes.
So I'm sure over the course of those weeks you've been observing changes, challenges, assessing the situation so you can see how to proceed forward. What are some of those challenges you've observed just generally, and how do you plan to tackle those?
Well, I've been talking to a number of stakeholders at every level, administrative, technical, in the community. There are multiplicity of issues. Some stakeholders see those issues differently. They see it more favorably. Other stakeholders see it more critically. And so it's just been a period of analysis. It has been only a few weeks, but it is an area that I feel very passionate about. There are a number of issues that I think are raising to the fore. The primary issue that is on everyone's mind is when are we going to get to face-to-face instruction? And that is primarily an issue because the virtual platform is missing a lot of children. And while we understand that we had to go into emergency mode very quickly, and a lot of progress has been made on that, The reality is, due to exigencies that have nothing to do with the ministry per se, but the reality is out there, children have not been able to access virtual learning program. I think they're probably in the thousands. We're looking at the numbers now. And so that raises a specter right there, because the question is, when you do get it to the face-to-face instruction, what's going to happen to those children who potentially have been out of school for more than a year?
Yes.
This is a very serious thing. So we've been discussing how we can ensure we can cause these children to catch up and that no child is left behind. That's the critical foundation. No child will be left behind. The other issue is that the curriculum. The curriculum, you know, a lot of work has been done, but it seems to me that our curriculum has to become much more relevant to the reality of our people. Education is, while we learn about all those other things, you have to learn. We're not insular and we're not insulated, but at the same time, we must have a greater appreciation of who we are as a people. And that must come from a self-realization through the educational process. So in the curriculum, the manner in which we teach who we are, what we are, where is it that we need to go to cause for a absolute connectivity of the average child to their reality, and not just the reality in their house, the reality in this country, and not one that we want to escape from, which is what we're seeing now. A lot of young, bright Bahamians are now moving out of the country and going elsewhere and becoming productive tools for another state, for third nations. And so we have to look at that to see how we can tap into the psyche of our children so that they are able to understand that this nation is as good as they are, and they are as good as this nation are. They're intertwined, they cannot be separated, and that there is an absolute stake in how they develop. And so, the curriculum has to connect to that part of this human process of our children. And then, of course, the issue of the training of our teachers. We have to ensure that our teachers, we want to ensure that we attract people that are passionate about children. And I'm not saying that we don't have people like that, but we need almost an absolute norm that is who gets in our classrooms. People who care about education, care about our children, are able to tap into, to use their skill set, to tap into the abilities and talents of our children, and cause for them or to pull out of them the best that they can be. Not every child is the same. Not every child is going to be an Einstein. Children are different, and some actually don't really perform that well even during the school years. They mature later. So later education or extended learning also becomes important. But we have to appreciate that children don't live in a box, and that their human experience and how they express their humanity has to find various avenues in the educational process. And that is why technical and vocational education is so important, because not everyone's brain works the same way. People are different. But I believe in our average child there's a brilliance. And so we have to find how to tap into that brilliance and what avenue takes that child that travels on. And so in our professional development of our teachers, we first of all want to ensure we attract people who are absolutely dedicated to the norm. And I have heard, especially during this period of challenge, when face-to-face ended and we had to go immediately into a virtual platform, that teachers kicked in, that they used their own resources, that they went and they found solutions. And so we know we have the concentrated capacity to really do what needs to be done. But we need to attract more. We have a teacher shortage, which is something I only really appreciated coming in.
Yes.
And globally, there's a teacher shortage, I'm told. But, okay, we know that. But the question is, how are we going to deal with that? And so we have to find strategies to attract young people, but not just young people who are absolutely passionate about teaching our children.
All right. A mouthful.
Yes.
But what I took from that is there is a brilliance in each child.
Each child.
And I like that statement. Well, we're talking with the Minister of Education, Technical and Vocational Training, the Honorable Glenys Hanna-Martin. There's much more to come. You're watching Ed Table Talk Unplugged. Stay with us.
public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training in conjunction with this channel. Log on and stay on. As parents, we will not always be present while our children engage in online learning. Ensure that your child is getting the most from the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training's learning management system. Here are some tips to help you establish your child's online learning routine. Number 1, designate a workspace to reduce distraction. The bed is not recommended. Number 2, each morning ensure your child is alert and devices are ready to log on. Number 3, periodically check in on your child by calling, texting, or FaceTiming to ensure that they are participating in their online classes. Number 4, communicate with your child's teachers to stay updated on your child's progress and online attendance. Number 5, remember, it takes a village to raise a child, so you can create a WhatsApp or other social media group with parents to share relevant information pertaining to your child's online education. Education is important. Log on and stay on. This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training in conjunction with this channel.
COVID-19 has forced students around the world, including the Bahamas, to continue their studies via online platforms. Here are some tips to help you successfully navigate through this new way of learning. You should prepare for your online classes just as if you were attending a face-to-face class on your school's campus. So be on time. Wake up early and log on to the virtual platform at least 5 minutes before the start of your class. Set up a space that is dedicated to being used as a daily learning environment. This will help you to establish a routine. Your space can be at your dining room table, a library, or your church hall. It just needs to be a quiet place that is conducive to studying. Be prepared. Make sure your computer or tablet is fully charged and your camera is on. Use headphones, especially if you are in a shared space. Dress in appropriate clothing. Sit up straight. Remember, you will be in camera view. Mute your audio when your teacher is speaking. Be focused, be attentive, and actively participate. Before speaking, raise your hands, then type your questions in the chat box. Avoid distractions, and remember to always be respectful, kind, and considerate. Your teachers will be there to assist, and you will make online friends and create virtual study groups. Online study may be new, but with dedication and persistence, you will achieve your goals.
While your children are in school, are you looking for a job? Do you realize you're never too old to continue learning? There are opportunities to retrain, retool in order to learn a new skill, to get a job, or start a business.
They're looking for what we call stackable credentials. So they'll pick up a course here, they'll pick up a course there that meets their schedule, not the traditional 16 weeks. And so I think what's going to happen post-COVID is there will be a continued move towards these shorter, focused courses that are specifically aimed at an opportunity for a job.
Parents, contact BTVI for more information.
All children under the age of 5 years old have access to high-quality care and education in a healthy and safe environment. Child care centers adhere to best practices which promote positive growth and development of children with professionally trained and effective staff and directors. Quality child care, building a strong foundation for life.
Welcome back to Ed Table Talk Unplugged. We are speaking with the Minister of Education and Technical and Vocational Training, the Honorable Glenys Hanna-Martin. It's a wonderful time to have you as our guest. But you touched on something how our teachers are our greatest resource.
Yes.
And you talked about the paradigm shift of teachers, 3,500 teachers in the system who partnered with the Ministry of Education and learned how to teach on the virtual platform. Some even went out and did Zoom meetings and use other social media platform to get their children.
Yes.
Others went out in the community to find the children. What have you learned from your teachers?
Well, I always knew that, you know, because I've been through school myself, and a wonderful teacher is the best thing for a child. And I know the influence teachers have on children. And during this particular crisis of the pandemic and the shutdown of schools, what I have heard about how teachers responded independently, I know they partnered with the ministry, but even before that happened, they went into almost immediate action mode to ensure that connectivity, they maintained a responsibility, connectivity with those children. And that was something that I found really a very pleasing and surprising fact, because I didn't know the logistics of what had happened intimately. And I saw that that was a major factor in keeping the door open to education in the immediate aftermath of this entire pandemic.
Yes. You've represented the Engliston constituency for about 2 decades now. And being intimately involved with your constituents who obviously love you, tell us, what have you learned and what you've learned about family dynamics?
Well,
how can that help you chart the way forward in education?
Let me just say, right, the schools in Engliston have done exceedingly well. And so I have to pay tribute to the administrators and the educators in those schools. E.P. Roberts Primary School is now one of the top schools in its region.
Yes.
C.H. Reeves is a top science school, and it's #1 in sports. R.M. Bailey had more children on the young people on the honor roll than in any year previously, a couple of years ago. So they have done exceedingly well. What I have found in Engliston is that you have some of the brightest children in this country. At E.P. Roberts, for example, the top performer in the Clement Bethel Arts singer was a little boy from E.P. Roberts Primary School, top in the country. And so it told me that you have jewels throughout that community, but you also have tremendous challenges. And that is why support is so important for families that face challenges. Parents out of work, there's serious economic challenges in many instances. There's sometimes even more concerning challenges. And that is why support is so important. And that is why I think it is, on the issue of virtual learning, I know personally that a lot of children in that constituency, in that community, have fallen between the cracks. There's a gap between their ability to access the virtual learning platform. And it's to do for a number of reasons, not having access to internet. Some people don't have electricity. There's some realities, and I am of the view that those realities should never inhibit the human development of any child in this country. So the role of this ministry has to be that every child in this country, regardless of their economic circumstances or the challenges that they face, or even any disabilities that they may have, that they are able, through the state and through the process of education, to realize their full potential. And in Engliston, I want to ensure that children from communities like Engliston, that whatever challenges they face do not inhibit their ability to realize their full potential. You know, I'll say this, one of the top trumpeters globally came out of Engliston. A young musician, scholarship at Juilliard, performing with Wynton Marsalis, catching the attention of the world out of Engliston. So it tells you the jewels that we have in that community and in every community that throughout this nation. And we don't want to lose that, because that's like losing wealth. It's like losing just an incredible opportunity. And I think education has to be about capitalizing on that wherever it is and not sacrificing it.
Okay, Minister, thank you so much thus far for your contributions. Obviously, you are passionate in education, in the area of education. We've come to our final break now. We'll be right back after this.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training in conjunction with this channel.
Hey Shelly, what you saying, gal? I see you in a minute.
Yeah, I good. Give me 1 minute, let me take this call. Hello? Listen here, y'all need to stay from out that yard here and hurry up and clean the house before I get back. Goodbye. Sorry about that, gal.
Man, the gal that's your children you talking to? Why they in Richwood School? It's 11:45 in the morning. What happened? They ain't get no class today?
Shelly, one thing, but you always up in people's business. Listen here, I'm fortunate like you. I can't afford one device, let alone 3. Then the internet is be in and out and things. They ain't dead. They don't learn nothing on them computer, no way. The ministry need to open school back up face to face.
Gal, if you wasn't bigger than me, I would have cut your behind. First of all, I don't have it no better than you. The difference is, I can do what I need to do to make sure my children get their education. You think I rich? Gal, carry yourself and go to that school and tell them the children need their device. And internet off and on? That ain't no excuse. You know how much place around here the church and thing will let you use their space? And gal, stop talking fool. Because I know you got family who the children could go by. Ain't nobody tell me that. I know that. Miss, get serious here before you ruin your children's life.
Shelly, like I say, you always up in people's business. But anyway, okay.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training in conjunction with this channel.
Welcome back to our final segment of Ed Table Talk Unplugged with the Minister of Education and Technical and Vocational Training, the Honorable Glenys Hanna-Martin. As we were talking, I'm listening to you, I hear that passion. But you also talk about equity in education. What about our Family Island students?
Yeah, that's a very important point because I spoke about my constituency, which is the equity finds itself also as a principle, but in our Family Islands. Because we have a tendency to become very Nassau-centric and not remember that we have populations nationwide, and really it's who we are. And so we have to ensure that we have the correct quota of teachers, that we have teachers in the relevant areas like science and the arts and technical and vocational, and that we're able to support the developments of those communities. Because it's when you support development that communities grow. Right now we're experiencing a sort of exodus from those communities, and then that raises other other issues. But I think that it's very important, I think it's a good question that you asked, that we always have sight of the fact that we are an archipelago, and that our people, our cousins, our brothers, our sisters, our friends, are throughout this nation, and we are one people. And we would wish there to be no discrepancy in terms of how development takes place throughout this nation.
Minister, in our previous segment, you noted the importance of support. And I want you to speak specifically to the support of parents, parental support, and especially how you were in the Glenys community. I just want to draw one example of something that bothered us last school term with regard to the tablet distribution and parents collecting the tablets for their children. We heard an incident where there was some parents who opted not to get the tablets because when they found out all of the responsibilities that came with it of taking care of it and all of that, and you would be liable if something happened to the devices, it was an issue. So speak to parents and the critical nature of their role in their child's life and development.
Well, you know, every parent is the primary nurturer and the first educator of their children. And also they help form cultural norms for their children, issues as it relates to violence, how language is used, all of these things, discipline versus violence. And so the parent is critical. A lot of times, however, parents are very challenged because they face hurdles that are not ideal in a normal setting. And so that creates tensions in and of themselves. But I think that is why it's very important to support our parents as best we can, because it's, the parent in Lyford Key does not face the same challenges a parent in another community may face. And so you have to ensure that you are able to balance it off by that support. On the issue of tablets, I found that I did not come across the issue of parents not opting to take it. I found that parents were trying very hard to get the tablets, and that was an issue, how to access it. But the fact that there was liability shifted to the family did raise concern, I think, because they saw it as a learning tool, and the fact that it was still connected to the school in that way, maybe like a textbook, excuse me,
Yes.
that I don't think it was in every instance conceptualized in the same way. But I think it's very important that children do have these tools, though, because you want to ensure that no child is disadvantaged because they're not able to access the tools. And this is an issue that we're facing right now in the country, that many children are being disadvantaged for varying reasons. And we have to ensure that we are able to, one, identify the extent of this fallout as accurately as we can, and secondly, to put in place initiatives or strategies to ensure that we are able to cause those children to catch up, because, truthfully, we don't know the impact of this period. It's been, we just don't know. But we have to seek to minimize any risk to those children as a result of this pandemic and all of the things that have to go into place as a result.
Yes.
And added right on to that point, what would be your appeal to members of the public and other stakeholders who want to see our children succeed and might have the needs? What direct appeal can you make to them?
Right. Well, I mean, the first principle is an old African adage: it takes a village. Always did. It takes a village. You could have your little thing in your home and all that, but it does not answer every issue. It takes a village. It's the church, the family, the community, it's teachers, it's the politicians. It takes a village that assists in the development of that child. And so wherever we are able to support the development of a child, it is in our interest. It's not that person's child. That's a citizen who's going to contribute to the well-being for all of us. And so we all have a vested interest in the well-being of every child. Where any child falls through the cracks, or any child finds themselves in at-risk circumstances, that's all our business. And we have to ensure that our children are, as far as possible, that we take a global interest in terms of their well-being. And I don't mean, getting into the minutiae of parenting with the child, but supporting, ensuring the child has the tools, supporting that child, scholarships where they're available, anything that assists children in realizing their full potential.
Yes. Thank you so much, Minister.
Thank you very much.
It has certainly been a pleasure having you. We've learned a thing or two from our new education minister. Like I said, it's certainly been a pleasure. Thank you so much, and we wish you the best in your tenure as minister.
Prayers go up.
It's a great task ahead.
When you succeed, we all succeed. To our viewers, if you would like to receive regular updates from the Ministry of Education, Technical and Vocational Training, free direct text message notification updates are available. You can subscribe by texting 819-BMOE. That's 819-2663. And remember to follow our social media platform. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. I am Vaughn Aubrey, along with my co-host, Adama Williams. Join us again next time for another edition of Ed Table Talk Unplugged.